I click this got it thing down here?
I'm sorry. Hey, welcome to another episode of Broker Talk. Today, I have the privilege of talking to an agent with 22 years worth of experience out of North Carolina, Lake Norman Realty, Nancy Hucks. Thanks so much for being here with us, Nancy.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate this.
As you know, on this show, we like to bring in people who are experienced and understand the industry and are willing to share their secrets. So, I wanted to start today's conversation about how service is different today than it was back then. When Nancy started, there was a thing called the Blue Book, and that was the only list anywhere of what the houses were available. So
Exactly.
the real estate agent really owned the listings. A flash to today where they get posted on MLS and it gets aggregated to 17 different sites, including most of your competitors. Within an hour of it up, it gets aggregated out. Clients have the ability to look at Zestimates, and everybody's got a valuation tool. It's a whole different world, but it's a whole different world of service as well. Because now, when you're communicating with somebody, they don't call you on the phone, or you don't drop by for a visit. They're texting you, they're Snapchatting you, they're WhatsApping
Right.
you, they're
Correct.
it's wild. So, Nancy, with your 22 years worth of experience, talk about the differences and how you have stayed on top of it and are still doing great business in North Carolina.
Well, the when I started 22 years ago, I looked at other realtors and saw what they did and tried to do that. But I had my own way of doing. I had been in the service industry my whole life. My mom and dad were in the restaurant business, so I knew nothing but service. So what I did is I have some rules that I go by. I do not leave my office if it's 10 o'clock at night unless I've answered every phone call, every text, any information that was needed. I do that before I go home. That's just something that I feel is necessary. Now, years ago, when there really were not, when I started, there were a good many real estate companies around, but not as many as there are now. And there's just tons, one right after the other. But if you don't do the service, if you don't stay in touch, if you don't uh, talk about when you get together, talk about happy things and good things. You've got to sell yourself first. That's number one. Then you've got to sell your company, and then you sell the product. And the service is, I have to say, is the most important thing in real estate because that's what I found in 22 years. And you have to keep in touch after you're done. If you want them to come back to you again or send you out to other people, you've got to be a household word, a name. So therefore, just there's so many different things to service. Is like I said, being sure you call back when you know it's time. You know it's time to do that before you leave for the day. If you can't do it, you write the name down on a piece of paper, what they texted you or called you about, and get on it. If it's supper time, so be it. They'll answer. If it's bedtime, they'll answer. But you don't need to call late at night. But you get your information from them directly and do
Right.
it quickly.
Right.
Don't waste time.
Right. Right. And year after year, the largest complaint that consumers have with real estate agents is lack of communication.
That's right. No calls back.
No calls back. So many agents don't answer your phone. Hey, if you're an agent watching today, answer your damn phone. How hard is it? Get back to people. It's a best practice. It's the right practice. But you're absolutely right. People they need to know when you're going to get back to them, and if they do, they're not going to call you 20 times. And
No, sir, they will not.
if somebody is calling you 20 times, refer them to somebody you don't like who is a competitor of yours and get a referral fee because you'll get a check later and they will have taken all their time and they can't compete with you during that. So
Exactly.
that's a real estate hack. Get rid of the people who take up too much time and get get back to everybody.
Yes,
Um,
that's right.
you know that, but here's the problem I have, Nancy, is um, there are so many ways that people communicate with us now. And the younger people, I've got a son who's about ready to buy a house in a different state, damn him. But because I can't, well, of course I'm going to help, but it's a different thing. But he will not answer a phone. You know, even when it comes up, Dad. You know, uh, he was home at one point, and I did get a chance to change my name and his, and so it comes up as "Answer your father's call." it, that
It
didn't
still
work.
doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah, but he gets right back on a text. And if you don't know how, it's not about how you want to be communicated with, it's how they are most comfortable.
That's
And
right.
your client, and that's a service.
It
That
is. It
is a
truly is.
service. And I have added, because I have a variety of investors that are out of the country, they use a program called WhatsApp, because you can make phone calls and all of that. It's encrypted and all that good stuff. By the way, WhatsApp is also a cesspool of people who just want to waste your time. And I tell people who locate me on WhatsApp the first time that I only talk to people on WhatsApp who are clients. Here's my email address. Call me during business hours. And that's the end of it. If they don't
It
do
is.
that, you
Right.
know, uh, I'll recommend them to somebody who competes directly with me so they can waste their
You
time.
saved yourself some time that way. You really do.
But that's part of the experience. And we don't want to, be the old people. Um, but age and experience often come together, but you can be experienced and be younger, or you can be younger and talk to somebody with experience. So let's talk about co-broking, and asking questions, and how has that happened in your career?
Well, now, as far as co-broking, you mean between the buyer and the seller or the realtors? The
Co-broking is
realtors?
between the two
Yeah,
agents.
I don't have any problem with that. I put forth a real effort. You don't like all the agents. We all have some that we just hate to work with because you end up doing all their work. But I'm sure I have problems myself, but you look at who you're getting ready to work with for the next 3 or 4 months or however long it takes. In the last few months, it's been 2 days, but, because we're so, busy. But, I just look at it, see who it is, give her a call and tell her I'm glad we're going to be working together. And she tells me what's going on with her and what's going on her side. You've got to make a relationship in the very beginning with the co-broker. If you
Right.
don't, you will not know which way to go when something comes up.
Right.
And it's important that not that you know them, but that you get to know them and that you do your part. And you may have to do some of their part, but that's part of it. If that's the way it works out, you just do it and keep going.
Right, right. And sometimes agents will um, use you a little bit. And you mentioned you have to do their work. I will happily do someone else's work because it gets done faster,
That's exactly
and I
right. I have
don't
no
have to
problem with
call
that.
them, and I don't have to worry about it. Things like the fire certificate,
Hmm.
a variety of things that you can do that. And I used to. I don't anymore. I used to, when I did something like that, I would say, "Hey, would you mind giving me a testimonial for helping you so much? You were away on your vacation, and I did the inspection with your client and all that." And so then, as time goes on, because it's a very small world in real estate, you end up, at the same table pitching the next listing. And
Exactly.
I always ask, well, who else are you talking to? a good question to ask
Hmm.
because
Absolutely.
if they're talking to uh, their cousin's best friend, or their some other distant relative, or my college roommate just got their license, and all of that, you get a sense uh, of what's going on.
Right.
So anyway, I'll ask them for a little testimonial. I'm in a presentation, their name comes up, and I
Hmm.
said, she or he is a wonderful agent. I'm going to send you the testimonial they gave me for the work that I do. And I send them the testimonial that my competition gave to me. Larry's a great agent to work with. Um, he goes above and beyond. Um, these are the little hacks that experience gives you. That it's we're not looking for friends. I don't think
No,
we're looking
no,
for people that we can work with. I don't get to see my friends often enough anyway.
me
Um,
either. That's true.
so I'm not looking for more of those people, but I am looking for a smooth path for my clients to achieve what they want to do, whether that's buy or sell. Um, what else about service has changed in your mind over the last 22 years? Certainly the way
Hon-
we dress.
well, yeah, for sure. Honesty, for one thing.
Yeah,
We get a printout every month about who was called in or called out on that something they had done, and I always like to read those because it happens,
yeah,
and you just simply have to be overly careful that you don't misrepresent or straight out lie to a seller, a client, uh, a buyer, seller, anybody. And you have to be really careful with that because if you do, you're going to be in big trouble, and you can
right.
lose your license over that.
Yeah,
But it can be simple things.
right.
No, there's no. There's the seller said that she has no termites, no termites. So we're good. We don't have to have an inspection. Yes, you do, because 10 to 1 she'll have them, and she did.
Yeah.
So you have to really be careful. But honesty to me has changed between agents, between sellers and buyers, the whole 9 yards. Honesty has shown up, and in at least in my experiences. So you have to stop and get that straightened out so nobody gets in trouble.
And we get to the point we were talking about before we came on the air. What's a win-win situation? Why don't you share that with the audience?
Well, a win-win is when everybody goes to closing, everybody's laughing and talking. You give a gift to the buyer if you represent the buyer, you give a gift to the seller if you represent the seller, and you sit there for 30 minutes and everybody's just having a ball. All we're missing is the champagne. And the commission rates vary all over the country. In North Carolina, the average that we go by is 6%, and that's three to the selling agent, three to the buyer, to the seller's agent, and three to the buyer's agent. And that has been affected somewhat in the last 2 years. Some people are going real low, and some people are staying right around the 6%. And of course, we all think that we earned every penny of that. But sometimes you have to cut it a little bit to get the deal done, which everybody does that. But to me, a win win is everybody is happy. I feel good about the sale. I don't think they overpaid, or the other side thinks they got a fair price. But you can tell when you get to closing exactly what kind of closing and what the situation is. If you've got, I've had before 12 people that were in a family and never spoke to each other the entire time. Gladly, that was not my fault. They hated each other. And the money that they had to divide was about $2,000. And I felt sorry for all of them. They were not happy, but that was not my problem. That was not a win-win for me. I was sad. But if you are convinced that you and the other agent have done what you're supposed to do, done it well, the two of you end up friends, or not friends, but getting along great, and your people are just ecstatic with what's going on, then to me that's a win-win. But it
Yeah.
takes a lot of work on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so for me, a win-win is when everybody gives up a little bit to get to that closing table.
Yeah.
Everybody loses just a tiny bit, and it's
Yeah.
what compromise is. And
Yes, it is. It
comp-
is. Yes.
compromise has left the world of politics right now, but
Yes, it has.
it cannot leave the realm of real estate and should not.
No, no, it
Hey, I want to
can't.
give you, hey, congratulations on the average of 6%. Let me give you a heads up. Here in Massachusetts, it's 5% and sometimes 4%. We know that places like Redfin, by the way, Uber real estate,
Yeah.
who's ever
Yeah.
closest, but they give the listing agent 1%. Um, you get what you pay for
Right.
in this
Exactly.
industry,
Exactly.
and what anybody wants when they're making the most expensive deal of their life, for the most part, 90% of them, is somebody who knows what the heck they're doing, and somebody who is going to protect them, somebody who's going to explain to them what's going to happen in the next move and the next move, and who is prepared for those uh-oh moments and those jump off the cliff moments, which happen in every single transaction, because we're human, and it's money, and it's a big deal.
It is.
and
It
and
truly is.
um and I think one of the things that I like the best is driving around and in my, the areas that I serve, and saying, oh, that's where the Murphys were, that's where, um I like that,
Yeah, I
and
do too. That's a
or
good thing.
see them playing outside in the front yard, and just stop by,
Mm-hmm.
um
Mm-hmm.
the whole gift thing to people. The rule is, what is it, $25? It's some really
Yeah, something like
nominal
that.
amount
Right.
that everybody completely ignores, and
They do.
who's going to turn you in if you're giving them something a little bit
Right.
more.
Right.
I, I had a guest on the show a while ago, and it was an attorney talking about real estate. She was a real estate attorney, and this whole conversation about gifts came up. And she said, you know what I give my clients as a gift when I close a deal for them? I said, no, what? She said, a bill. I said, well, okay.
Oh goodness, that's too funny.
Yeah, not really, but I completely understand the point. The
I
whole
do too.
idea of giving gifts to people. I don't know where that started. I think it's a wonderful thing. Um, what do you do as gifts? We weren't planning to talk about this, but
Well, that's okay. These charcuterie boards are out now. They're just great. Everybody loves a charcuterie board because that's it. You can have that with grandma and grandpa, or you can have it with your best friends or whatever. You can have Coke or tea, or you can have alcohol, whatever you want to do. But everybody seems to love a charcuterie board. And if you can afford it, some people can, of course, and some people can't. You have either the address written on it,
uh,
or you put their names
yeah,
on it, something
yeah,
that they will keep. They're not going to throw that out. They're not about to. If you're going
right,
to give a gift, you need to give something that they're not going to throw away, and
right.
that's a good gift. But they're expensive, but it's a nice gift.
I wish I could remember the name, but they're uh, Cutco. They make fabulous
Yes, they
knives.
do. They
They
do.
and their rep in my area was somebody I really liked. And
Mm-hmm.
so she sold me a package, and I love their knives. I have their knives. I had their knives before I actually used it as a gift, but as a closing gift. And so it's got my on this knife, it's got my name, my agency, my phone number, and all of my clients are not sketchy. But I had a dream one night that my knife showed up at some situation, and oh, we called you first. It's still dripping with blood. Like, I said, And then I heard that as a wedding gift, you should never give knives. And
No, yeah, I've heard that too.
there's so many of these
Yeah.
crazy things. My guest last week was someone who was talking about staging homes, and it was feng shui. Now,
Hmm.
feng shui makes a lot of sense. It started centuries ago, but how about staging? Do you stage any of your properties in North Carolina?
Well, I have never done that. Um, I think it's good to do it if you have the money to do that because the that's going to cost a good bit of money if you stage a large home, several $1,000s. And the people that sell the most expensive houses, they do stage, and it's great. I sell a lot of expensive houses, but for the last while, they've all been vacant because people have already moved. And my thought on this is that number one, whoever is buying this property, they want to see every single inch of it that they can see. And so I have never really gotten into staging simply because I'm upfront. If there's something wrong, if there's a hole in the wall, I want them to know it before we
Sure,
start. An
sure.
inspection is great, but it doesn't show the things that people really need to see. So I don't stage. I would probably if somebody said I just have to have it staged, but I prefer if they're out to not stage. And a lot of times their furniture is not going to be as nice as somebody else's or be nicer or whatever. And I just don't, it's just not for me. I just have never done any staging. I think it's good for some people, but it's
Right,
not my.
right. Let me share because I've had a number of stagers on the show before. Um, what they say, and I kind of agree with them. Staging, the cost of staging is always less expensive than your first price break. Now,
Right.
we
I
haven't had
understand that.
price breaks in a couple of years
Mhm,
now
mhm,
because of the
mhm.
market. But now the market is changing and we're going to have to, price it better and be ready for not 110% over asking price. We're going to get ready for 90% over, under asking, not 90% under asking, but 90% list to sale price. And to do that, the difference in houses is everybody's got their own taste.
Right.
The buyer also comes with their own taste. The stagers know what the taste is right now in the market. And especially if you have an empty house.
Right. Exactly.
You would put a little staging in the kitchen, you'd stage the master bedroom, and you might stage the living room. The rest can be totally empty, but you give them a sense of what it would be like if it was
Right.
their house.
Right.
and
Exactly.
and the stagers that I know um, will work on budgets. And here in Massachusetts, the staging is paid for by the seller, not by the agent. Some agents offer it as I'll stage your house.
Right.
Um, they're just diminishing what they put in their pocket at the end of the day.
Right.
And I understand some people reduce their rates to
Right.
get money in their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
all
That's
of
true.
all of that is diminishing yourself a little bit, and we all have done it.
Oh, of
nobody
course.
nobody holds the line every single deal because it's
No.
all idiosyncratic or circumstantial to that incident.
Exactly.
And we're self-employed, you know and I've been self-employed my whole life. The only thing I know is my boss is a jerk. uh,
You need to do something about that then.
I have talked to him and talked to him. I don't have many friends, but I do have a very rich collection of personalities that live up here. They're all giving me bad advice. Every one of them, piss poor. But I try not to listen to them. Uh, anyway, I hope my clients aren't listening.
Well, they might be.
They some of them do. I love the audience. What people want is they want someone who clients, what are clients, both the buyers and sellers, they want to know you know how to do your job,
That's
and
correct.
not just your job, but you're paying attention to them. You're
That's number
doing
one.
you're doing your job for them.
Right.
It's not our house we're buying, it's not our house we're selling, it's theirs. So
Right.
you have to project yourself in there rather than be the always be closing kind of person. Like I know exactly what to do. You may know exactly what to do, but if they have a different opinion or they are adamant about something, you got to listen to that. In my
Well, that's
opinion,
true. And what you're saying there is something that they tell us all the time. And we keep it up here. Listen to what they're saying. Don't walk in and start your whole presentation without starting with them talking first. What exactly? Tell me a little bit about what you're looking for. Tell me how, tell me a little bit about your budget. Tell me what you want. That's what I need to know before I start. And
exactly.
if you set that up and you've got all that in place, then the rest of it is not nearly as hard
Yeah,
because you don't show them $1 million house if they want a 500.
yeah,
You don't waste your time.
yeah.
Agents agents come to us. A lot of agents come to my not a lot, but a few agents will come to my property, and I know they've already told me. I'll say, well, is this in your price range? I'm talking to the agent. No, but it's such a nice house. I want them to see it. They might buy it. Not from 500 to 1 million. They're not. But listen to what people are saying. That's to me. That's
That's a
so
bad.
important.
That's a bad agent. That's a
Yeah.
bad agent. They're wasting
Yeah.
their time and they're wasting their clients' time,
Yeah.
on there. There's nice houses at every price range. There really is.
There definitely is, and
And
definitely
showing somebody at a price range that's twice what they can afford isn't helping them. Doesn't matter that you like it.
you're
Um,
not going to push anybody into spending more money. You can't do that.
it
That's
just
not going to work.
it's just poor service. I don't want to leave this show without us talking about national trends and drilling down to what's going on in North Carolina around Lake Norman. So earlier today, I listened to Dr. Lawrence Yun talk about the national statistics. So I'm just going to overlay what's going on nationally and let you deal with what's going on in North Carolina. But nationally, everybody knows interest rates went up. They just went over 7% the first time since 1980. Very, very scary. Um, but uh, what's happening is usually when interest rates go up like that, prices go down. And that's just not happening because the
Yeah.
lack of inventory still exists across the country. Nobody wants to sell. The people who are in properties who have lots of equity are looking at that and saying, "Yeah, I have all of this equity in here, but what am I going to buy?" Even downsizing the property that I would have been able to get now is out of my price range. So the here's the thing, year after year after year after year, in an up market and in a down market, 5 million properties sell a year or more. I didn't don't quote me on that number, but a lot of properties sell across the country every single year. People die, people get divorced, people have babies, people get promotions, people get transferred. So sales are always going to happen. What has to happen is that the agent needs to understand the specifics and what's going on in their area and be able to share that. So
That's exactly right.
what's going on in North in at Lake Norman in your
Um, by the way, I definitely want to say if you come to North Carolina, look up Lake Norman. Lake Norman Realty. We're just fantastic. Best people in the world, agents as well. If you what I would say to that is I've never seen the market like this, not even in '08. The market today is just we're all just amazed. But anyway, we have no inventory. We have no we have nothing for anybody to buy. So what everybody is saying, until I have somewhere to go, unless I move to Florida or move somewhere off way off, which I don't want to do, then we're stuck. We're not going to put our house on the market. We know it'll sell in 2 or 3 days. We can
Right.
make a bunch of money, but why would we take the money that we make, invest it into something else, and then when everything gets back to normal, we're going to be stuck.
Right.
So that's the thought process, and they're basically right in a
Right.
sense. But Mooresville is a small town. Lake Norman put it on the map for sure. Lake Norman is a wonderful place, and the million and up houses on the lake or around the lake are selling. The houses down from that I would say would be Waterview, maybe they're in the 500s, anything in the 300s. We are selling in Mooresville. We were a mill town, good mill town, best people in the world. And those little mill houses, when I started in at my earliest time, 22 years, I sold them for $60,000. They're 2 bedrooms and very, very small. I'd say 1,100 square feet is what you have. They are selling for $275,000. And that is absolutely unreal. But all of that it will change. It'll all go back down. It'll all get straightened out. I talked to a lender today, and I said, "You have anything you can tell me about the market?" He said, "Hang on. I think that we're going to be fine come spring. Maybe. I hope so."
I
They're
heard that.
going to,
I heard that today too in
yeah.
the economic
And
expectation.
I've talked to, I do foreclosures for First Community Bank, which is out of West Virginia. And they tell me, and I agree, there are going to be foreclosures and a lot of foreclosures because a lot of people have just bitten off more than they can chew. They cannot, if they didn't pay cash for what they bought, then they have a loan. So that's going to happen. I feel like that's coming, and that'll probably happen
We've been
within a
talking,
year.
but today in
Yeah.
the National Association of Realtors expectations, I saw the statistics, and they are trailing statistics. So it wasn't what was going on before, not
Mm-hmm,
what's
mm-hmm,
about to happen.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I agree completely with you. During the pandemic, a lot of people they went into forbearance. They were allowed to by the government not pay mortgage for a period of time. What many of the companies did, Bank of America in particular, damn you, Bank of America, but they would promise, because it was the law, that they couldn't report it as an arrears and affect your credit. Well, they would move it from Bank of America, they would sell it to somebody.
Right, exactly.
And after it was gone to them, then they would hit your credit.
That's
And then
right.
if you were paying, then you went back to Bank of America. It was just it's a shell game that, and Bank of America isn't the only. Wells Fargo is doing this, a bunch of them. Look for a local bank, someone like the old days where you can walk in and you can see Bob or Joe or
Sit down, exactly.
Sally, because there are local banks, and they care about you because they live in your community. Uh, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Uh, Nancy, it's a real pleasure. Thank you so much
Well, I
for.
thank you for having me very much.
It was a great, and I look forward to talking to you further.
That would be great.
Thank you for listening to Broker Talk. Tune in next week where we have another great guest from another part of the country, talking about real estate and what's going on. Really appreciate you people. Thanks so much.